In the last tutorial, we showed you the importance of this anchor point, which is create a dense center of your composition when you make a new layer or any layer that you're put in your layers panel down here. Okay, so even if it's from Photoshop, each of these layers will have its own anchor point, dead center of the composition when it's added. Okay, that is different than the dead center of the actual object itself. So what does that mean? I've got a rotation keyframe set down here. I'm going to play it. It's going to rotate around that point. One full revolution. There you go. In a very short period of time, drag it out. Okay. Now, okay, let's see if we can add it so it goes twice. So I don't want it to be one times, I want it to be two times. And I'm going to show you a mistake that is going to be so common you're going to do it 100 times. Just like I do, because you forget. Click here, I'm going to say edit that second keyframe. I want it to go two times instead of one times. But look, I forgot to move my play bar to that second keyframe. So it's added a third keyframe. And this is going to cause chaos. Let's see what happens. See? I don't want that. I wanted to modify my existing keyframe from 1 to 2. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to remember next time, until I forget, that you have to navigate using keyframe navigations to the keyframe you want to modify. Select it. It's highlighted in gold. And now let's make it two times and see what happens. Now I've been having a little bit of trouble with the rotation. I don't know if my graphics card and RAM is fast enough. 1, 2. Yeah, it did go. It went around twice. Okay. 1, 2. Okay, going much faster now. 1, 2. Okay, so it's definitely modified it. It's going around twice now. Okay, again, the key is don't just start to set a new value on any of your transforms. Let's go 3, because as soon as you do and hit enter, you've actually created a new keyframe. Okay, so and that will happen to you 100 times, and it's okay. Just make sure you go back and figure out how come I have an extra keyframe there. Sometimes if I go backwards or forward and you're looking at a very sort of small view here, sometimes you can be off by one frame and set it and then actually have two keyframes literally almost on top of each other. Okay, so you really got to pay attention to that. So navigate to the second keyframe. It's at 2 times currently. Now, what I want to do, I want to change that using the pan behind tool, take it to the middle of the object. I've already done this, so I'll be quick about it. Hold Command or Control, snaps to the middle now of the shape, not to the composition. And now when it rotates, it'll rotate around the center of the anchor point. Okay, good. That's what I wanted. Okay, I'm going to turn that off now, and I'm going to show you another extremely important purpose of the anchor point. Okay, I'm going to now make a new shape. Now remember, if I make a new shape and I've got a shape layer picked, I go to a shape and I drag out. Oh, why is it not doing it? Oh, because I'm making rectangles, right, inside that shape layer. That's not what I want. Delete, delete. Deselect anything on your layer stack here. Okay, nothing selected. Now make your new shape. I'm going to make it up here. And as soon as I drag out, I get the anchor point again, dead center of the composition. I'm going to change the color just for fun. Let's go with a nice orange. There we go. Okay, so there's my new shape. It's a new shape layer, so it's not built into one of these other two shape layers. Okay, let me just compress the view of those. So all we're dealing with is this. Now, I want to scale this layer. So I'm going to just drag it down here and say, oh, but sir, look, it's already put the, it's put the anchor point dead center of the shape. That's deceiving. Okay, until you move the anchor point, it hasn't reset. This is just showing me the center of the shape, but the anchor point itself is out here still. So how do I know that? Go to transform on that shape and then pick anything. Pick any of these transforms and immediately you'll get the anchor point appearing. I'm going to do a scale this time. Scale transform. Okay, so what I need to do is I want this to scale, let's say from the center to start. Actually, why don't I just leave it there? I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to have this scale just from this anchor point position. So what's that going to look like? Let me go to 15 frames approximately. Doesn't matter. 16 frames. I'm going to say that's my start point. And then I'm going to make that the end point. So I'm going to go about a second down the timeline. Doesn't matter the time. I don't have to be accurate here. And then I'm going to go and now I'm going to scale. I'm in position. It's not what I want. So you got to pay attention. I wasn't paying attention closely enough. I'm going to go to my end point first. So about a second in. I want it to be 100% at that point. Turn on my scale. Go back to 15 frames. Modify. I want it to go to 0. Okay. And there you go. So it starts at 0, which I can't see it. It is there, but it's so small it's invisible. And then it's going to grow to 100%. Okay. So let's see how that little animation works first. Okay, you notice how it's scaling from the anchor point. It's coming from here out. Watch again. See that? One more time. Scaling from this point out. You say, okay, that's pretty cool. Maybe I want it to do that. Yes, maybe you do, but maybe you don't. Maybe you want it to scale from the center out. So what do? Go back to the first keyframe. Sorry. Let's just go back to the first key, not the first because I can't see anything. Let's go to the second keyframe. Okay, let's go to the pan behind tool. Grab that anchor point. I only have to move it once unless I want it to move during an animation, which we're not going to get into. Command or Control, snap it to the middle. I've now moved that anchor point dead center of this shape. And now when it transforms, it's going to transform in place right here and just grow. It's called a grow animation. See that? So no longer is it growing or scaling from a point, it's now growing or scaling from the middle because I've moved the anchor point there. Hey, watch this. This is cool. What if I put, holding Command or Control, snap it to the corner. All I've done is move the anchor point, okay, to the corner now. And I'm going to, oh, look, I can scale from a corner. Oh, this is so cool. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to have it scale from an edge. Hold Command or Control. There we go. Let go. I'm going to scale it now, and it's going to scale from this edge out. Watch this. See that? Very cool. So you can very easily control how this is scaling. Now, let me show you another aspect of the scale and how the anchor point will play into that. So first thing I want to do is let me just throw this anchor point off. Just put it up here. I want this shape to grow, but I want it to grow from an edge over. Almost like it would be called a wipe in television terms. I want this to wipe on. Starts here and then just grows in one direction only, because right now, look, it's growing in two directions. Okay? I want to just grow from the x-axis over. So how do I do that? Well, first thing I'm going to do is go over to my first keyframe, select it. Be careful, again, make sure you get to your keyframes, because if you just go there now and say, okay, I'm going to scale it and I want to go like 200%, and that's the change. Oh, look, I've created a new keyframe, right? So you got to be very careful to always navigate to your keyframes first that you want to modify. I want to break this link. See this link here? This link is saying that the X and the Y are linked together, so it's going to scale in proportion to each other. I'm just going to click that and unlink it. And now what I'm going to do is go to the second keyframe, and there's 100%. So right now it's going to go from 0% in the X and Y. I want to make the Y 100%. I don't want the Y. Oh, look, now the Y is there 100% on the first keyframe. Go to the second keyframe, the Y is 100%. Now the X is 100%. So now what I've done is I've created a scale starting with 0 on X, and then it's going to grow on the second keyframe to 100%. So let's see what that's going to look like. Okay. It's going to be a little weird. I'm going to warn you now. Okay, things are pushing around and things. That's because I've got to move the anchor point. So I want this to scale from, say, this point here. Actually, let's have it scale from this point because it makes more visual sense to me. Click and put the anchor point there. I want the first keyframe at the X axis to be 0, so it's invisible in the X direction. And because it's invisible in the X, I don't see anything in the Y, although you can see with the bounding box it is there. Okay, and then the second keyframe, the scale is 100% in X, and so now we see the whole thing, and the Y is fully 100% as it was in the first. So let's see what this is going to look like. Again, I've put the anchor point right here on the middle of the edge on the left. Oh, see that? So it's now scaling out right from this edge. So if I want a shape to sort of grow from an edge, I have to move the anchor point to the edge, and then I have to unlink my X and Y in order to just scale in either the X or the Y direction. Okay, let's do something else here. Let's go back to the first position, the first keyframe, select it, so I'm going to modify it. Let's put the X back to 100. Okay, so we see it. Let's put the Y to 0. Okay, there we go. So the X is there, but the Y is not. So what's going to happen? Well, it's scaling from here, so it's going to be a little bit funky. Let's see what happens. It's going to be weird. Not too bad. It's scaling from the middle up and down. Watch. Middle up and down. Kind of cool. If I want it to grow in both directions at the same time, my anchor point's here. So it's not that weird, but that may not be what I want. Watch. There it goes. See that? So use this as your visual reference. It's scaling in the Y direction in 2 directions. Boom. Okay, so I don't want that. I want it to scale from this point up. So what do I need to do? Let's go back to our first keyframe. And now let's find that anchor point. Where are you, anchor point? I can't find you. So what I'm going to do is set the scale Y to 100 so I can find it. There it is down here. That's a weird place for it. I moved it without seeing it. So I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to hold Command or Control, snap it to this middle bottom. It's going to now scale only in the Y direction up this way. Watch this. I'm going to go back. I'm on my first keyframe. Change the Y to 0. Okay, so it's going to be down here. The X is there, and it's going to grow in one direction only now. That's what my expected outcome should be. And there you go. See how it's now growing up only. And that's simply because I moved the anchor point. And there it is there. You can see it. What if I put the anchor point here and I move, hold Command, snap it? I don't know. Without thinking about it, what's going to happen? It may not make much difference. It doesn't. Okay. What if I take that anchor point and move it here? Hold Command. Again, let's see what happens. It's actually scaling down because it's scaling from the point of the anchor point. It's going from 0 to 100, and it's scaling from this point. So you can very clearly see the importance of this anchor point for both scaling and rotation.